Hello and welcome back to my shop. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to take a look at how to use countertop laminate to build shelves or really anything else you need. For this project, my customer needs a series of white shelves that are part of a bigger project and they're going to be used in a commercial setting. Being in a commercial setting, we want something a little more durable, so we can't just go to the big box store and buy some white melamine shelving. It might be cheap, it might be easy, but also it's cheap and it's easy. Using the countertop laminate is going to be far more durable. In this video, I'm going to have some tips and tricks for you that I'll bet even as a seasoned woodworker, you may never have heard of. And if there's some tips and tricks you know that I don't cover in this video, please leave it in the comments below so that other viewers can learn from your experience. Now let's get right into the build.
To create as little waste as possible, I'm starting with a 10-foot piece of laminate that I'm going to cut down to 5-foot pieces. I do this by scoring it deeply with a knife and then just breaking it off. I need 32 pieces, 3 inches wide by 5 feet long. So I'm going to glue these up as panels and then rip them on the table saw. If I were to rip all these pieces individually, the laminate would have to all be cut at about 3.5 inches wide, which would create a lot more waste. The glue you use for this is called contact cement. There's water-based and solvent-based. I like to use the water-based because it's less odor, cleans up really nicely, and still holds really well. You're going to apply to the MDF first. You'll actually see as I'm rolling onto the plastic laminate, the MDF is drying very rapidly because that glue is soaking in. So that's going to need a second coat. And then you'll let this dry for about an hour before you put the two pieces together. You'll know it's ready to go when all the white coloring is gone. It's got this glossy sheen to it, and it's just a little tacky to the touch. If you see any of the white left, it is too soon, and if you put your pieces together, they will not stick permanently. As the name implies, contact cement sticks on contact. So you'll need to lay down some strips so that you can line up your laminate with the MDF, and then start pulling strips from one end and just working your way across. Then we're going to need to use a laminate roller to roll the entire thing. You need to get good contact, good pressure to make sure the stick is permanent. And make sure you get every edge, every square inch of every part of it. So these can be ripped down now on the table saw. I start by breaking it into two pieces that are a little easier to handle, and then start making my 3-inch rips. The way you avoid chip outs is make sure you're using a good sharp blade, and then make sure that blade just barely protrudes past the surface. If you have your blade up too tall, the back side of the blade is going to chip out your laminate. I needed 32 rips of the laminate at about 1 inch, so this is what I came up with. I clamped a board to the fence, which keeps the laminate from being able to slide underneath the fence. Then I clamped another board on there that helps hold the laminate down tight to the table. It worked pretty well. The glue up for this looks just like before. I laid all these strips next to each other so I could glue with a roller, and then just make sure to separate them before the glue dries, otherwise they'll all be stuck together. On the back side of half of these, I'm going to put a little strip because the shelf is going to stick up about 1/4 inch, so I just need that to be a finished surface there. That's why I'm not gluing the entire surface of these. And just like before, I'm going to use these wood laths so I can line this up. I want to make sure that everything's hanging over at least 1/4 inch. Then using a flush trim router bit, I'll just cut off all the excess. Before I start gluing the edges, I'm going to take a few minutes and apply tape to both sides. This is going to save me a lot of time with cleanup later. Like before, I'm going to glue the MDF first. You can actually watch the glue absorb into these edge cuts. 2 coats is an absolute must on the edges. Applying these edge strips, I just use my fingers to guide it down and make sure it's overhanging on both sides. Here's one of those tricks I bet you've never heard of. Before I router off those edges, I'm going to apply a thin layer of Vaseline down the entire length of the board on both sides. This is going to keep the rotor bearing lubricated and prevent it from burning the workpiece. Now that can be routed off, just make sure to go counterclockwise around the piece. After you router that off, you're going to be left with an edge that needs to be cleaned up. Traditionally this is done with a file, but I don't have time for that. So here's another trick. I use a palm sander. Hold the palm sander at a little bit of an angle, just like you're trying to chamfer the edge. And if you've never done this before, I would suggest starting with 220 grit, and once you get used to it, you can go up to 120 grit, and it'll go twice as fast. Here's a look at the finished edge. This is just another close-up view, so you can see a little better how this works. And my last tip, when you have curves like I do on these end caps, just make sure that the curves are gradual enough that you can roll the laminate around the corners without breaking it.
Well, now I've got 4 sets of shelving, all identical and all completed. I'm ready now to move on to the next stage of my project, which is going to be a lot of fun, so stay tuned for that video. I do appreciate you sticking out this video all the way until the end. Hopefully it was useful for you. I'm hoping you learned something. If you did, I ask that you please like and subscribe. But really, like I always say, even if you didn't, please like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.